12,000 years ago, someone built the world's oldest known temple. Then, they buried it. Not destroyed, not abandoned, buried, stone by stone, layer by layer, deliberately filled with dirt and rubble until it vanished completely beneath a hill in southeastern Turkey, where it stayed hidden for over 100 centuries. No one knew it existed. Then, in 1994, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt pushed his boot into the soil and felt something solid beneath the surface. What he uncovered in the years that followed didn't just rewrite history, it shattered everything we thought we knew about human civilization. When it began, who built it, and more importantly, why someone went to extraordinary lengths to make sure we'd never find it. This is Göbekli Tepe, and the deeper we dig, the stranger it gets. The site sits on a ridge in the Taurus Mountains, near the city of Şanlıurfa in modern-day Turkey. From the outside, it looks like an ordinary hill. That's exactly what archaeologists assumed for decades. In 1963, a joint survey by the University of Chicago and Istanbul University noted the site and dismissed it. They recorded scattered flint fragments and limestone slabs and moved on. They thought it was a medieval cemetery. They were off by about 11,500 years. When Klaus Schmidt arrived 3 decades later, he immediately knew something was wrong. Wrong in the most extraordinary sense. The limestone wasn't scattered, it was arranged, deliberately, with precision. He began excavating, and what came out of the earth defied every assumption archaeology had built its foundations on. Massive T-shaped pillars, some standing over 5 meters tall, weighing up to 20 tons, arranged in perfect circular enclosures. Carved into their surfaces, foxes, scorpions, lions, vultures, snakes, and strange abstract symbols that no one has fully decoded to this day. The oldest sections of Göbekli Tepe date to approximately 9,600 BCE. Let that land for a moment. That's 7,000 years before Stonehenge, 6,500 years before the Egyptian pyramids, over 5,000 years before the wheel was invented. According to everything we were taught, at this point in history, human beings were primitive hunter-gatherers, nomadic, pre-agricultural, barely surviving. They were not supposed to be capable of organized construction. They were certainly not supposed to be building temples. And yet, here it is. The site covers at least 9 hectares. That's roughly the size of 17 football fields. Archaeologists believe only about 5% has been excavated so far. Think about what that means. What we've found, these magnificent circular enclosures, these towering carved pillars, is just the tip. Beneath this Turkish hillside, there may be an entire complex we haven't even touched. The pillars themselves required extraordinary engineering. The largest weigh 20 tons. The limestone was quarried from bedrock roughly 100 meters away using nothing but flint tools. No metal according to the official timeline. Moving a 20-ton block of stone 100 meters with flint tools and rope requires coordinated human labor at a scale that implies social organization, hierarchy, and planning. Hundreds of workers, probably thousands, which raises an immediate question that mainstream archaeology has never fully answered. Where did they all come from? Hunter-gatherers, by definition, don't have permanent settlements. They move with the seasons, with the herds. You cannot mobilize thousands of people across a landscape without some form of central authority, without someone in charge. Göbekli Tepe implies a civilization far more organized than the nomadic tribes history assigned to this era. Some researchers believe it wasn't built by a civilization, it built one, that this site is actually the origin point, that the act of constructing something this monumental required people to stop moving, to settle, to organize food production to feed workers, and that this is what triggered the agricultural revolution, not the other way around. We were always taught that farming came first, then civilization, then religion, then monuments. Göbekli Tepe suggests the opposite. The monument came first. Now we need to talk about what's carved into these pillars, because this is where things get deeply strange. The animals depicted at Göbekli Tepe aren't random. They're not a primitive farmer's doodles. There's a deliberate, repeating visual language across multiple enclosures built over centuries. Vultures appear constantly, often carrying what appear to be human heads or spheres. Scorpions cluster near specific pillars. Serpents wind their way down stone surfaces in configurations that appear intentional, almost ritualistic. Many of the T-shaped pillars have arms carved into the stone, hands that reach forward, belt-like carvings at what would be the waist. These are not abstract pillars, they are stylized human figures, beings. Whatever or whoever built this place was representing something in these stones, something important enough to carve in relief across 20-ton monoliths. And then there's Pillar 43. Known as the Vulture Stone, it contains one of the most debated carvings in the history of archaeology. A row of birds, possibly vultures, a scorpion, a headless human figure, and above it all, what some researchers believe is a star map, a representation of the night sky as it appeared around 10,950 BCE, specifically the moment a comet struck the Earth. That date, roughly 13,000 years ago, corresponds almost exactly to an event called the Younger Dryas impact, a catastrophic collision with a comet or asteroid swarm that triggered a mini ice age, collapsed ecosystems, and wiped out the megafauna of North America. Some researchers believe the builders of Göbekli Tepe witnessed this catastrophe, that they were recording it, memorializing it, that this entire temple complex may have been built in response to a near-extinction event, a monument to survival, a record in stone of the day the sky fell. If that's true, it means the people who built Göbekli Tepe were not primitive nomads scratching at the earth. They were the survivors of a catastrophe, sophisticated enough to record it in astronomical stone carvings 12,000 years ago. And now we reach the question that no one can answer, the question that transforms Göbekli Tepe from a remarkable archaeological discovery into one of the deepest mysteries in human history. At around 8000 BCE, approximately 1,500 years after the earliest sections were built, the entire complex was deliberately, methodically, intentionally buried. Not by enemies, not by erosion, not by time, by its own builders. The evidence is unambiguous. The material used to fill the enclosures is what archaeologists call backfill, a specific mixture of flint tools, animal bones, and limestone rubble that could only have been intentionally deposited. Layer after layer after layer, until the entire site was sealed beneath a man-made hill. This took effort, this took time, this was a decision. Somebody looked at this extraordinary complex, the greatest construction achievement of the ancient world, and said, "Bury it." And so far, we have absolutely no idea why. Here are the theories. None of them are proven. Theory 1, protection. The builders knew something was coming, another catastrophe, an invasion, a climate event, and they buried the site to preserve it, a time capsule for a future civilization. If this is true, the burial was an act of extraordinary foresight. They were right. It survived 10,000 years beneath the earth, perfectly intact. Theory 2, ritual completion. Some researchers believe the enclosures were built for a specific ceremonial purpose, perhaps connected to the dead or to astronomical cycles. Once the ritual cycle was complete, the enclosure was closed, buried as part of the ceremony itself. The burial was the final act of worship. Theory 3, concealment. This is the one that raises the most uncomfortable questions. What if the site was buried not to preserve it, but to hide it? What if whatever knowledge or power was encoded in Göbekli Tepe was considered too dangerous to leave exposed? And what if someone 10,000 years ago made a deliberate decision that this place